Running to HSC for streaming. I'll try to implement the drag and drop. And as always, there's multiple different ways to do this. And I'm debating which one to go with. I'm kind of procrastinating a little bit because it's kind of annoying to do these things, so I decided to stream because of this. So, yeah. So one way is using the drag controls, which is an additional library from 3GS. And the other way is to use the Raycaster, which I think is pretty much the same thing as using the drag controls. But obviously the Raycaster is better because you don't have to use an additional library. And what the Raycaster does is just you pass a bunch of objects and then it's gonna put on an array the objects that are intersected by the mouse. So I think the main way that I'm trying to do it, that I think is better, is to use the Raycaster then with the objects that are intersected on the mouse down event. I filter the nodes based on the position of that object, because the problem is that I have to change the value of the position on the object, the node object, but the Raycaster just gets the objects from the scene, which are the 3GS objects. But in order for the layout to work, I need to change the node objects themselves. So I can't directly change the position of the objects that the Raycaster intersects. So I'm thinking about getting the position from that object and then filtering the nodes based on that position. And then with that, I create a variable that is going to hold the node that was selected, and then based on that, I move the node. I change the actual node object instead of changing the 3GS. But the annoying part is that you have to get the normalized coordinates, and this is the part that this kind of stuff I hate doing, because it's just like about small annoying nuances. And CSS in general, I just hate because it's not hard to do, but it's just annoying to figure out everything, and with all the devices and everything that can happen. So I'm probably gonna open the other project as well. So the other approach is to use the use gesture, which is a library, and then that's the way that the other project does it. So and this is the thing that I'm not really sure what to do about it, because the difference is that in this project they put the event on the node themselves, on the node itself, because the nodes is an element, because they're using React Fiber to render the nodes. So they create another hook that wraps the use gesture hook, and then they pass these functions here. And then the upside of trying to use this thing that they have is that I don't have to think about the annoying stuff for the coordinates, because I already did it. So I'm trying to see if I can figure out if the normal event has this event object, which I think it doesn't. And this is the issue, because that's how they do it. And also here is going to be slightly different because the event is on the node itself. So, but I think it's pretty similar. So they just get the position of the mouse when the drag starts, and they put on this variable here that is going to be a vector 3. And this offset as well is kind of annoying, which is just the size of the node, I think. But I'm not 100% sure. Save the offsets of click point from object origin. Yeah, so it just, I'm assuming that this gets the position from the center of the object, and this gets the position when you subtract this point, it gets the position of where the click actually happened, I think. But I'm not 100% sure why. I think probably this is the object that was selected. And the only reason that they can do this is because it's being wrapped inside of this use gesture. And this use gesture is kind of annoying to understand because I already downloaded the library locally, but there's a bunch of code. I think one thing that I'm gonna do now is just step through this, and then I'm gonna look at the source code from the other library and try to understand how it works. But I think the simplest way is probably to do the way that I'm doing now. To just get the object here, and then I filter the nodes. I'm gonna put the node on the selected node, and then on the mouse move I just get the point of the position of the mouse on the mouse move, and I change the node object to have that position instead. And then obviously on the mouse up I just make everything do again. And also I decided to change the way that I was doing the camera controls, and to do it with the component as well, because this is another annoying thing that I was trying to figure out, but I didn't want to spend the time. Which is just, you have to disable the camera controls when the click event happens, because obviously you don't want the panning to happen. So there's this variable inside of the camera controls, but I was trying to access this directly from the camera controls and make it equal to false, but it wasn't working for some reason. And then these controls, like the way that they do it, they create a normal React context, and then based on this context they have these variables, and then they assign these controls here to a ref of the object of the component, and then they use the director fiber version. So I decided to do it like this as well. And I think I'm gonna keep it like this because after thinking about it, I think that's not... It's just much easier to use reactor fiber, and like the downside is that it adds a dependency. So what I might do in the future is just download the library locally and then replace the imports, so I have control over the code. But I think it's not worth it to do my own thing for the canvas and for the reactor fiber stuff, because I already have access to the nodes themselves, like the way that I'm doing the visualization. And I think that's probably already enough to allow me to customize if I want in the future, or to have more control. And because I already manipulating the nodes directly, instead of having to render them with components, which gets annoying, because then if you want to put logic to like change layouts or do physics or stuff like that, it's a lot harder to integrate, I think, the declarative way with the other libraries that allow you to, or not even libraries, maybe my own code. It allows me to move the visualization in whatever way I want. And if I have access to the nodes themselves, then it becomes a lot easier because I can just pass the nodes. But with component is annoying, because then if you try to render the component inside of another function, it gets kind of weird, because then you have to mix JSX with the other stuff, and then, I don't know, I don't like it very much. The annoying thing about this one is that, and this is the point I stopped yesterday, is figuring out what is the best, because obviously I don't want like I have to compare the position of the event with the position of the node, but I don't want the positions to have to be exactly the same. Obviously, it has to be within a range, which should be the area of the node, or an area of a square that is close enough, like it's an approximation. So I can do the, but then this is it's kind of annoying, because I think I have to get the difference and then make that a square or something like that. Or the way that I'm doing here now. But then the confusing thing is that, like, depending on the situation, either one of them can be bigger than the other, so this is going to be a negative value, and then... but I guess it works because it's less than 2, so... Yeah, maybe this way works. I think I haven't tested this. It seems like it's not working. But it's weird because... it seems like the Raycaster is not working as well. Maybe, I think I commented this out because I wanted to see the other one, so... it's probably that, yeah. Because now I think it's gonna fuck up. Because I changed the code there. The size is not defined. And this comes from 3GS, which I don't know. I think it's something related to the viewport, but I'm not 100% sure. But in both cases, you have to use this size from 3GS. And the other thing that I'm realizing is that I should probably put everything on the same. I think I'm gonna do that first. Because then I don't have to call the hook multiple times. Oh. No, I'm done. Unless I remove this and I just put the names. I guess if I remove this, because on the example it was like this. But then the name has to be the same, so... So maybe I'll leave the GL separate, and then the other ones I'll just... Because I think that it's better to just leave GL renderer because it's less confusing. If I just put GL, in my mind I don't think about it in the same way. Yeah, so I guess these ones... it's fine. The other annoying thing is that the way that they did it, they use a ref hook to keep track of the node that was dragged, and that's gonna change the function of the layout. But I think is like the way that they do it seems like it's unnecessary to do that. So, but then if you don't do it, you have to change the functions, I think. Yeah, the question that I have is if I change the node position on the object directly, if it's gonna change. I think I have to set the nodes again, that's the thing. And then like this is the challenging part, because this is a question of, and I guess like this is the part that is the most difficult, which is to think about like which way is gonna be better, because I don't like some of this code I don't know what it does, like this one, the Raycaster, and also thinking about the other approaches and how it's gonna evolve over time is that like if you have a large graph, if I set the position of the node here, let's say I get from the store the set nodes function, you can get from here, and then I pass there to the other function, and then like if I'm calling that every time that the mouse move on the drag, if it's gonna be really inefficient. Because I think I would have to do that, but maybe another approach would be to just change the position of the object. And I think that, yeah, if I change the position, I have to change the position directly of the group node, so that, oh, but then that's the issue. It's because when I change the position of the node, that edges are gonna be like at the same place, but in the way that they did it, the edges are updated automatically, and I think the reason why is because of the layout. Because there's the ticker of the layout that is always running, so when you change the position of one node manually, because they set up with the use ref, it's gonna update the edges automatically, I think. So that's the question, because I can get the function that sets the nodes here, and then I can set a node inside of the mouse move, but then I'm not really sure if it's gonna be like very inefficient. And this is the main difference between the way that they did it and the way that I'm doing now, is because they put the event on the node itself. And then another question is whether or not I can just set up the event on the object itself, but I think I can't. Unless I'm setting up on the 3JS object, but maybe like I can probably use some library or something like that to just set up an event on the object itself. And that's probably how it works with React Fiber. But then it's annoying. So I think that the easiest solution is probably this, true. And then I pass the set nodes. And then I change the position on the node directly, and then I don't have to change the other function on the layout, because like the way that it works on the other projects is that they change the ref, and then because they set up the return function as a condition of whether if the ref exists, is gonna use the node from the ref. And if it doesn't exist, it's gonna use the normal node. To get the node, to set a position later. If I set the position on the node directly, then I don't need to change the other one, because the position is already gonna be updated. I think, but not 100% sure. And the other thing that I'm not sure about is whether or not I should just put, instead of creating another function, just put events instead of this use effect. But I decided to put on another function because otherwise it's just gonna be a bunch of code here, so. The other thing that you have to do, which on the example that I saw on the video there, it wasn't correct, is that you have to update this pointer every time on the loop, on the frame. So it's kind of like the camera controls as well, that you have to call the update. So I was initializing before, I was initializing the Raycaster inside of this drag function, and then getting the pointer, setting the camera, but it doesn't work like that. So you have to initialize the pointer outside here, and then you update there, and then you pass the pointer as an argument here. I don't understand these functions as well. They come from the example, but and I think now I understand why the reactor fiber has the stuff about related to the events is because that the dome event doesn't have the 3D positions, I think. So the reason why they create, I think, is because you have to translate the scene space into the dome space, and the events from the dome don't have the stuff related to the scene. And this is the position from the node. Which I have here. So I think what this does, it gets the position from the current node that was selected, and then copies the position from the mouse and adds the offset. But I don't understand what, like, the point of the other calculations is probably because of this, but I don't understand why getting this plane. Obviously it has to do with the positions, okay, and the way that the field of view is gonna work with the event, but so the mouse 3D is the one that I'm calling pointer, I think. So I need to change mine to, because I'm using a 2D vector, I think. The main question is this event object here, but I'm gonna step through it to see what it is. Or maybe I just console log. I think I'm gonna console log first, then step through it. Because the annoying thing about stepping through it is that it's gonna go over the JSX stuff, and it might go over a bunch of different things that like are kind of useless and a waste of time for what I'm trying to do. And then I'm gonna have to parse through the noise to get you the signal. So yeah, so I think what they do is they cache. So this is probably the object that was because the difference is that yeah, here it already assumes that the object was selected, I think, but maybe not, because this is the node component itself, so the event is on the node. So when they click it, it already knows that the thing selected was the node. So this is probably the node object, and then it gets the position from that. And then this is gonna be like empty in the beginning, which is just this vector tree. And then it subtracts the point. So the point is probably where the event happened. The event object is the object that was selected. And this stores the position of stores the value of the offset, but because in the beginning this is gonna be 0 maybe, but I'm not really sure. And then it caches the value, caches where the point happened, where the event happened. So the mouse reads the coordinates, which is what I'm doing there, I think. I have to assign this to the pointer. I was doing this here, but I think the way that I was doing is slightly different, and it's probably wrong because of the annoying stuff about the coordinates. So the way that they do is they get the bounding client rect from the canvas, then they do this annoying calculation here to see at what position is gonna be on the screen space, not on the DOM space. And the reason why this is very annoying is because I can figure out ways to make it work here, but then the problem is you never know if it's gonna work when someone else uses. That's the issue. And there's so many different, browsers, so many different operational systems, so many different screen spaces and pixel ratios, and that's the stuff that is like, because you don't have any control. And I'm sure that there is a lot of different libraries to do this kind of stuff, but it's still annoying as fuck to deal with this. And it's kind of the same feeling I have with testing as well, which is probably something that is good to do, but is very annoying to do. I think the reason why it's annoying is because it's like some additional stuff that doesn't have anything to do with what you're actually trying to do. So this is gonna get the ones that are selected, and then I got the first one assigned to this variable. I mean, maybe this, in the way that I'm doing now, is not necessary. Because this I was doing following the example, but the example wasn't like the video from the other guy. But it's not very accurate for the stuff that I'm trying to do. Yeah, so here it should be draggable X. Oh, but then where does the points? So maybe the found here is the same as this. Yeah, let me think. I guess the question that I have is that I don't know exactly what position is gonna be. Because I know I've console logged this before, and then I know that it's gonna have a position attribute. But I don't know what exactly is gonna be the position. If it's gonna be the position of the object, or like from the center of the node, or if it's gonna be the position of the pointer. So I guess what I have to do is just console log these two things here: the found position and the pointer x position. Because this might be the stuff that they are caching there, which is the difference of the found position and the difference which is the object. So I get the found minus the pointer, yeah, and that's gonna be, and then I store that on the offset. Then why do they use this offset here? Yeah, they add the offset here. So when it's dragging, and I think probably the way to do it is the same way they're doing here. The only thing that I'm gonna have to do is that this set function is the set node position, and then I guess, oh, but I'm gonna have the selected node because I'm filtering in the beginning. So I think that's probably, if I can do it like this, then it's better because I don't have to think about how to change everything else. If I can use the same functions. But it does feel like it is not the best the way that they did it here. Because there is some, like, I don't get why using, but maybe there's a reason, and it's just that I don't know. But I don't get why using these drags here. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Because if you're updating the position of the node, like, the only place that I saw that they use these drags is on the layout function. So if you're updating the position of the node object itself, and like on the layout function, the only thing why it's used for is to get the value, like get the node itself, is this part here. But this is the weird thing, because like here is getting the position of the node, and the position also is kind of weird the way that they do it, because inside of the position they copy the full node again with extra values for x and y, z from the position. And I don't understand why they do it like this. Because then it's just like the node inside of the node, but with extra position values. It doesn't make a lot of sense. And then on this function, like, if the node wasn't dragged, it's just gonna get the node. It's gonna return the node itself. And then on the other function, it's just gonna add it's gonna do the thing where it adds the node to itself with the position. So like here, because this is gonna be the node when the drag is not set. So just adding the node inside of the node, which it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Like, it would make more sense to put the x, y, and z outside on the node object itself. And I think that because this probably costs some resources, either time or memory. And then on the second time, like once you drag, it's gonna get the actual position itself, because it's accessing the node from the drag ID, and then the position attribute, I think, which is gonna be this object here, which is gonna contain the node, because the node was inside of this in the first place. and it's gonna contain the positions. And then the only purpose for having the drag is to set the node, which doesn't make sense to me at all. I don't understand like why. So I think I have to change this. But maybe the problem is it could be used somewhere else that I don't know yet, so you might fuck up the thing if I change. But the way that I think about it is like, why not always return the node and then change the position of the node directly? But it might be something about the D3 stuff as well. This is the issue. It's because I don't know what data structure the D3 library expects. But I think that the D3 library puts the attributes on the node itself, and it doesn't expect anything. It just calculates the position based on algorithms to calculate the layout, based on the amount of nodes and edges and the connection. I assume that's the case, and then it's gonna create the attributes on the node itself. So you probably don't need to, like, it probably doesn't need to be formatted like in this way here. So one way would be doing like that, the other way would be to just get the position, the actual position, instead of returning the node. And then doing the same thing here, but then putting the position. So instead of doing this object, you just spread the position outside, because it would be the actual position. And then you don't need the drag, because you're gonna always return the node and you're changing the value of the position of the nodes on the event itself through the function that they use, which is set node provider. So no, set node position, which is this function here. They're using this function here on the use drag. Is gonna be this one, and it's actually not gonna be this one. It's gonna be the one that is passed to this. So like this is gonna be the position, but it already has the ID of the node from here. So it's passing this function here. So this ID is from the node, which is another thing that's kind of weird, because like it feels to me that it's not the best, because it's like coupling the two different things. It would be better to just separate, I think, to just pass the set node position function. And then remove the ID maybe. But the thing is, you need the ID obviously, but I'm having a hard time with all these decisions, because it is like I don't have enough time to test everything and to see which one is the best. And because it's very abstract and it's gonna change a lot, it's hard to decide like which way to go about it, and I don't wanna invest a bunch of time designing things one way and then figuring out that it doesn't work later, or it's not very good, and then I have to redo everything. Yeah, but what this function does is just changes the object, I think. So they do this function search to get the node that was selected, which is also kind of weird, I think, because it feels unnecessary, like you're doing these loops here. It doesn't make sense. I guess the reason why it would be necessary is if you have different node objects. I think that's the reason why they're doing like this. So for my case, it's probably not needed. I can just change the nodes. But then the question is, because yeah, the question is whether or not it's gonna be the same object in the memory. because I'm getting the nodes from the store, and then I'm passing to the function. So, like, the question is, if I change those nodes directly, are they gonna change the nodes that are on the store, or is gonna be a different reference in the memory? If it is a different reference, then I have to call a function to set the nodes again, I think. Which just gonna copy, and I think it's likely that it is different because of the way that React works, I think. Because React creates, every time there's the diffing and there's a change, I think React changes, like it deletes the objects and creates new ones and functions as well. Which is one annoying thing about React, I think. But I'm not really sure if they're on the other frameworks they do it differently. So what they're doing here is subtracting the old vector, which is the position of the node, with the new position, which is the position of the mouse. That's going to be the offset, and then they add the offset to the new position, I think. That's what they're doing. And then they are replacing the object. So it's very similar with the way that I was doing with Pixie after watching the tutorials, which is you just subtract the position of where the mouse down event happened with the new position, and then you update that each time, so you're getting the offsets, and then you're increasing you're increasing the position of the object by that amount. I think that's what's happening. Just here is the node position, and then plus the offsets, which is this value here. So what should I do? So obviously I think I'm not going to use the function because I already have the node. So I'm just going to try to change the node directly, but then I have to move the logic from the function here, I think. So I think what I'm going to do is just copy this stuff, and then copy the rest of the other function, and then I change the node directly, and if it doesn't change the visualization, I can just call the set nodes function and then set the nodes again. But this is another question because I don't know which way is going to be better, because if I set the nodes, I have to loop over all of them, I think, each time, but I think they're already doing that anyway with the star. Yeah, they're doing here to find the node, and they're doing again. They're doing here, they're doing here. Here, here. Oh, this is another thing that I didn't think about. Because on some of the examples they have these selections, I think. When you click a node, it highlights other nodes, which makes things more complicated, I think, as well. So I have to think about that. because this part I don't understand really well because I didn't spend time thinking about it. But obviously there's gonna be other parts, I think, of the website that are gonna set this selection at some point after you click, and it's probably gonna be based on the layout. So I have to think if I do it the way that I'm thinking about, then like later on if I want to put the selection, I'm gonna have to change something. I think the problem is that I don't understand the layouts yet very well. Right here, they are pretty much... I think it's going to be a lot more efficient the way that I'm thinking about doing, even if I copy all the nodes, because they are doing a bunch of times. Here, they're just updating the state with the new drags object, which is going to hold the ID with the node. So it's just going to return the node itself. No, it's going to return the position because the... Yeah. So I think what I do is just copy and then see if it works. I think I don't need this. I think I got this back from the example. Oh no, I think that I already deleted it because I was doing the same logic here on the mouse move. I was using the Raycaster again, but it was just because of the example, I think, that I saw from a video. This is the other stuff. So I think I'm gonna comment this out for now. But obviously it's not gonna be... It's gonna be selected nodes. I guess this is another question, is whether or not... I think I'm just gonna put selected node, because I just want to add the ability to select one thing. But then the question is, how do you make it? I think the Raycaster already has that logic, where because it's a 3D scene, so you have one... And this is the thing that's like a physics engine would help, I think, because then it has collision, so the nodes will never overlap. And I'm probably gonna do that later, I think. Just use the wrapper with the use asset from It's Fine. Yeah, but I think this part's the one that I'm gonna change. Because I'm just gonna try to copy. So I'm getting the new position here. But this is something that I don't know as well. Because it's also different from the way that they are doing. Because I have the same thing here. So maybe it's better if I create another variable and then pass. Maybe I should just copy the stuff they do, like with all the variables here using memo. I think it's on the use drag. So I should use the same variables. And then the only thing that I change is this thing here. That I can use the Raycaster, and the Raycaster is going to be the object. And then I create another variable for the offsets. So I copy this, put on the main component. I think that's what I'm gonna do. It's just the easiest thing to do. And I also do like this. I'm very happy that I found this library because it's very good. Despite these small things. Because I think I wouldn't think about all this stuff myself if it wasn't for the library. Maybe eventually I would, but it would take more time, I think. Oh. Should I remove this? And then I pass the thing there. I think I'm gonna try to do it the same way that they do it. It's just easier.
The mystery of life isn't a problem to solve, but a reality to experience.
I'll be right back. And this is the issue though. So how do I get this point? Because I think it is the point where the event happened. So... And I think it probably comes because of the use gesture. So there's something that happens that they add this stuff on the event, but I'm not really sure. I think this is annoying. This is the annoying part. So I think it doesn't make sense for me to put the pointer there because the pointer is already the mouse 3D. So, but maybe I should do it in a different way. I think I can just do the copy from the points, from the normalized coordinates. So I can just do mouse 3D copy pointer. And after I assign the values here. And then this would be a pointer as well. I think I'm gonna redo the way that this is passed. Interesting. And the question is whether or not do I want to track off screen. But I think I'm just gonna do the way that they're doing it here because it's easier. So the thing is that the mouse 3D is the pointer, and the mouse 2D is also the pointer, but they're using the mouse 2D just to update the thing. Yeah, I think the main thing is the point. Main thing to figure out. And also this part here that I don't understand really well, because like the offset's gonna be 0. I think the way that I'm doing it, I don't need to do this. Because the question is whether or not doing this is the same as changing the X and Y here. Because the problem is the Z direction. Is that I think the event's not gonna have the Z direction. But here it probably does, because they're using 3D, so I don't know what this is. So this just gets the plane, I think, of the drag, and it puts on the normal. Then defines where the mouse hits based on that plane. No, this is finding the plane based on the normal with the mouse. Then it finds the point of intersection between the plane and the 3D coordinates, which is where the event happened, I think. But maybe it's slightly different as well, the way that the events work. Because the issue here is that it's not updating the mouse 3D instead of the drag. So this is just gonna make it so that it changes too much, I think, if I try to do it in the other way that I'm doing now. Then maybe these other functions do that. I don't remember if filter returns an array or just doesn't return anything. I think it does return. A shallow copy. I'm thinking whether or not I should create a condition, like a flag variable, to just get the first one, or if I just should leave it like this, like in case there are two nodes that are selected, like that. Two knows that the condition is true, then it's gonna get the last one, but I think I'm gonna leave it like this. And obviously I'm still not sure about the pointer thing. I think I'm gonna have to step through to understand what is this. Maybe I should put the scene first as well. I'm not sure if I should or if I could use the same offset here instead of doing this. Yeah, because it's gonna be the difference between the position of the updated position, which is this one, minus the position of the node. But I don't understand if the offsets the difference. And the problem is, I think it's gonna be an array, and then if I spread, I'm gonna have to, like, it's gonna keep another copy, I think. So it's better to get the index and do it like this. It probably is not gonna work. Hmm. That's probably because the position of the selected of the event object. And that's the thing true, because if this is an edge, it's gonna select as well. So one thing I can do is, instead of passing children, I just pass the nodes. But then I would have to loop again. Because obviously, maybe I should just try to pass the nodes instead, and I think it's not gonna work because it's not a 3GS object. Yeah. Is using Raycaster. So obviously I could set, maybe the store already has this, if I remember. I can just get that. But I think I'm not setting the meshes. But maybe I should do that. It's weird that it only has edge meshes. Yeah, but one thing I can do is just put the node meshes here, and then I set the meshes as I create the nodes. So this is one thing I can do. Yeah, now I have to think again, because it's another problem, like another design thing that I'm not really sure what to do about it. Because like there's several things I can do, I think. Like another thing I could do is just like leave it like this, but then put a condition here. Or maybe not put a condition, maybe just filter. Actually, filter is not very good because then, but maybe it doesn't matter if I get the shallow copy. So I can filter and then put a condition base to see if it has the mesh for the node. Just a group mesh. Because I think I do need to make sure it is a node. So I can filter based on whether or not it has some of these properties that it would indicate that is a node, and then based on that I do the condition. And the other thing that is wrong there probably is the value of the positions, the coordinates, because that's what I'm using here to compare. Or maybe it's because it's just points. Not X and Y. I want to see if I can figure out the drag first, then I'll worry about the other stuff, because just an annoying thing is not important. But I think probably the best thing to do is just put value on the store itself and then set the meshes. The other thing that I can do is just change completely the way that this is done as well. I just thought about this. And maybe that's what I should do actually. Because then it would allow me to choose the Raycaster directly. I think the main thing that I need to see is whether or not I can connect the D3 directly with the 3JS objects. Because, yeah, but probably it's not possible. Or maybe it is. Maybe all I have to do is change the function. So instead of updating the position on the node object, I update the position of the meshes. I think that would be a lot better, because then I can just use this thing here. And then I access directly on the 3JS stuff, and then it would allow me to just update the positions from the meshes directly. Like by using the set function there. Set. Oh. Like these functions here. I think that actually would be a lot better, now that I think about it. And this is what I mean, is the thing that is kind of annoying to do these things, because it's not hard, but like there's so many things to think about it. I think probably the best thing to do is to figure out how to change the D3 first, and then I do the event. So if I could set the layout directly on the meshes without changing the node object, it would be a lot better. I think the reason why they did it the other way is because you can't really, because they're using components. And I think that's the stuff that I mean, that when you use components, it becomes harder, I think, to manipulate the nodes and edges. Because you can't put the JSX inside of the other functions, I think. And that's the issue. So I think the way that I'm doing, I should probably, instead of doing what I'm doing now, I should just think about how can I change all the functions so I'm changing the mesh and not the node. And I have to understand, I think I'm avoiding doing that because I have to understand how the D3 works. Because I didn't want to deal with changing the function there. Also, I'm having problems with the other layouts that I didn't figure out yet. But I think I was just procrastinating changing this thing. Yeah, the main thing is that I don't know how this works really well. I think this is the problem. I think it's on the build build graph, the one that changes. Oh, the changing the edges was annoying as well. Because I have to copy this geometry. Yeah, but here, I think that's the difference, and that's probably what I should do. So like on the edges, I'm changing the line graphics directly from the edge. Changing the position there, and on the nodes is changing the node object instead of changing the mesh. And I think the reason why they do it like that is because they are using the components. So maybe that's what I should do. Now, one thing I can do is just comment this out to see if it's gonna work. Because the problem is the D3 thing. They're not sure how it's gonna work. It looks like it is working. Interesting. So I don't even need to do the stuff that I'm doing. So let me think. I think I'm gonna stop streaming here. I'm gonna think about this, because now I'm gonna have to like rethink about everything. I think I didn't stop to think about this stuff because I didn't want to deal with the D3 thing. When I wanted to figure out the other stuff. But now I think it is connected because obviously now it changes everything. Now that I realize that the actual layout is just setting the positions here in case. Because I was thinking that because D3 expects an attribute on the object that it passes, because they are passing the nodes on the D3 functions here, and the layout is built on that. It's built based on the nodes that it receives, I think. So I was thinking that the D3 library adds some attributes to the nodes, or expects some attributes on the nodes, or adds and then expects on the other iterations if you change the value. So this is the reason why they had this. This is how I was thinking. But obviously now I think it's not the case because I'm changing. If I just change there, it works. So if I can do it like that, then I can think. I think I can probably just use the Raycaster, and then I just set the position. I just access the. I do the same thing that I'm doing now, but then I select the node and I get the node and ID, and then I just call this group.positionSet, and I set with the new position. The biggest problem is the edges though, but I think it doesn't matter because the curves are based on the positions of the nodes. So when you change the position of the node, is gonna update the edge automatically because I'm using the group position here. It's actually probably a lot easier. Let's see. The most annoying part is the figuring out the relative positions, I think. So I need to understand how the magnitude of the position from the Raycaster is gonna be in relationship to the position of the node. So, and here I should do group position. So I should probably console log the and now that I think about it, I probably don't need the other variables because like the Raycaster probably already does everything to convert to the scene space, and the groups are already in the scene space, the positions. So yeah, but I do need to convert the mouse, the event coordinates. But the other stuff about the planes and things like that, I think I probably don't need that as well. But the issue is that I don't understand really well. Maybe I should just ask ChatGPT what these functions do, or search on the documentation. Like, I think I understand based on the names, but I don't understand why I use them, because and this is the thing, I might be missing something that's, you know, like this makes it more correct, more accurate, let's say. From what I'm thinking, all that I need is the position of the mouse, and I need to update. So I need the position of the mouse first to see if it's gonna be inside of the, it's gonna be hitting the node or not, and then based on that I select here, and then I need the position. I need to update that position for the event for moving the object based on the position. But then I don't see the need for the other stuff here, like this intersects. But maybe I'm missing something, so I think I'm gonna ask ChatGPT and search for the documentation. And the other thing that is confusing is the offset, because I don't know like exactly what it is, what it's supposed to be. I think that it is because the way that they capture the event there, it captures the event from the center of the object, which would be the node. So the event object would be, the position is on the center, but the position of the actual click is going to be somewhere along the node. And this might be, I have to do the formula for the area of the node. It's math.pi times the radius square, I think. Square, no, to the power of 2. And this is probably the reason why this is not working here, the condition. Yeah, but I think I also don't need this stuff here. I think I don't need the offsets. I can just do it with the... Do I have the... I think I have to see if I have the node, the radius of the node. I think I do based on the size. I think the node has the size. Oh, I didn't. But the way that they were doing in the other example is based on the size. But I hard coded here because it was easier. And I was trying to figure out the other stuff. So, but what I can do is just put the size here. That's gonna be the radius. I'm gonna make it as radius, not size. And then based on the radius, I don't need the offset if I have the radius of each one. And I think it's much better, probably. And then I wouldn't need this stuff here. Yeah, there was something about subtracting. I think that if I remember correctly, the way that like I did it on the Pixie version is to put a variable here, and then the variable would calculate the position, and then it would be the offset. That variable would be the offset, I think. So in the beginning, you make the offset equal to the position of the event, and then on the mouse move, you subtract or add the position of the mouse move event with the offset, and you update the offset. I think what I'm gonna do is just look at the example that I had on Pixie JS, and then I'm gonna do the same thing with the variables. Yeah, but this way is probably much better. I'm kind of tired already, so I wanna take a break, but I'm thinking about whether or not I should stop streaming now and just figure this out off stream, or take a break on stream and then solve later. Because it's just like I think I have to spend time thinking about it. Just see what is the best approach. The most annoying thing is the offsets here. Instead of having this, I could just call the selected nodes a group position.sets. And maybe this would be the offsets here instead. No, it is one plus the other, I think. So it would be a new vector, not adds offset. This is the updated, so it's pretty much mouse 3D plus offsets. So here would be mouse 3D, I think, as well. I think I'm gonna stop here. I'm gonna figure this out off stream. Maybe I'll come back today, later on today. I'm gonna take a break now because I'm already tired of thinking about this stuff. I think I'm gonna take a small break, then I'll come back and stream again. And then try to figure out, or maybe I'll figure out this off stream and then I'll come back and try to figure out the context components. But maybe I'll come back like another time and just figure this out off stream. Yeah. So